Jason here with ProCheck Home Inspections, and today I have just some things I want to talk about how you can get faster and get better at doing your inspections. And so this will be a nice little walk and talk video. We got the nice sunset at the end of the day. It's really relaxing and peaceful back here. So I don't have a script, just kind of some things that I like to think out loud. And so in order for you to get better at running your checklist, because I can remember my first time that I had used the Spectora app, and I ran my checklist and I did a home inspection on my own home, and it was horrible. I had gotten a mentor, and I talked about that in another video, the importance of getting some help and things like that. And I had watched him do an inspection, and I thought, I can do that, no problem. And then I tried to do it the exact same way. Now, this person's been doing this for about 10 years, extremely well-versed and a veteran. And I tried to do it the exact same way. I thought my head was gonna explode. I was not ready to do it at that speed, in that way. And so I needed to slow down. And that's the first thing I would say is, if you're having problems with running the checklist and you think you're missing some things and stuff, first of all, I would stick to that checklist and I would talk about it, how you're gonna do the inspection. I've heard some people say, they always start at a certain point and they go to the right and they don't miss work. That's one that I've heard online. Other people have said, they always start in the kitchen and they always take right turns and things like, whatever it is. For me, I always start and I follow the path of water. And this is one of the things that I actually tell the clients too. I say, I'm going to follow the path of water. I'm going to start up on the roof. I'm going to see how the roof is faring for that. And then I'm going to go to the exterior. I like to work from top to bottom, following the path of water from the outside in. So that's why I go to the roof. I do the exterior, following my checklist around. And when I did it, I literally, went all the way around the house and I went very slow. And every time I saw something, anything, I would mark it down. The type of siding, boom, I do that. The type of trim, boom, I mark that. The type of windows, boom, I mark that. Oh, I see that there's a defect right here, boom, I mark that. And my inspections took me a long time to do that. But after I did about 3 of them, I got faster. I started to realize, okay, now I'm not thinking, where am I starting? I'm not thinking, what is my methodology for doing this inspection? And all of a sudden, everything got faster because I started doing things the exact same way. Well, then I was challenged by my mentor. He said, okay, what about the days when it's pouring rain like crazy? Or, I live in the north here in Packer country. And, when it's, negative 20 degrees and all stuff, you're gonna sit outside for an hour and just, your hands are gonna freeze. He's like, what I want you to do is I want you to start at the front and do your pass around, saying out loud or saying in your head the things you would mark down in your checklist. And then just take pictures of each one of those things, right? And then I would go inside where it's nice and warm and I'd fill my checklist out based on the pictures. And I thought that was the worst idea ever at first because it slowed me down. I'm like, oh man, this is taking so slow. Then I would do it again. Then I would do it again. And then I would do it again. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm filling the stuff out on autopilot. And I'm able to fill out my checklist inside where it's nice and warm or nice and cool and all that kind of stuff. And I have all my pictures as references and I'm still doing a good inspection. But all of that came from me determining what is the guiding, the North Star of how I'm going to do this inspection, and then following my checklist and getting my reps in. And if you do that, your inspection process is not going to suffer. You're going to do just as good of an inspection. In fact, you're going to do an even better inspection because when you first start, you're going to be so worried about, is that a defect? Is that not? Should I mark this up? What's the realtor going to say? Is my software working right? All this kind of stuff like that. That's all the stuff you're worrying about because it's natural and it's all new. But once you've worked all those kinks out, then you are free. Your mind is free to actually look at the home, to actually just concentrate on how is water affecting the home? How is the grading affecting the home? What is the overall condition of the home? And you're able to absorb that even more because your mind isn't bogged down with all the other stuff of how do I operate my checklist? How do I work my software? You know, all those kinds of stuff. And so, excuse me, that's one of those things that's really, really going to help you, is making sure that you get those reps in. So I would say the number one way for you to get better at running your checklist and getting, and had to get a drink, something in my throat. But so that's what the main thing I would say is for how to get faster at your inspections and better at them is have a methodology, an overarching methodology of what are you doing at any point, because you're gonna get to a point and you're like, what am I even doing? You know, you're finally starting like, where am I even at right now when you first get started? And if you have a guiding principle of, okay, something like I'm following the path of water. I do the roof, then the exterior, then I go from the attic to the second floor to the first floor, and then the basement. At least you have that in your mind that that's what you're doing, because there's gonna be times where all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing? You know, so do that. Follow your checklist and take your time. Don't try to be too fast, and recognize that anything new is going to be difficult, and you're going to get frustrated, and your head's going to hurt, and you're going to feel like you want to give up. And just take a breath, realize that it's part of the process. You know, when we think about, you know, riding a bike, when we first rode a bike, we didn't ride a bike the first time we got on, you know, especially if you started when you were young, like I did. You crashed a whole lot. You got skinned up and all those different things, and it hurt. And you're like, why am I doing this? This is no different than that. It's a new thing. It's a whole different type of career field. And it's going to come more naturally to other people. We all have different degrees and skills and all those types of things. But just realize it's tough. It's new. And if you're struggling, just slow down, take a breath, and get more reps in. It will help you. You're going to do great. So if anybody else has any other ideas, things that have helped them for help speeding up their checklist, some overarching way of how they inspect a house, please, I'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments down below. If you like this type of content, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.